Welcome to our LSC podcast, Living Stones Church. We're so glad that you kind of joined us today, and we're excited about coming to you.
That's
via
right.
Our really first official podcast.
First official podcast.
And yeah, it's really a joy to be with you, and hopefully everyone's having a good day. I know we are.
Yes.
We've had a fun day. We already ate lunch. It's probably the worst time to do a podcast is
Right.
after having lunch. But this is normally, when you get like my age, it's like the nap time.
Exactly.
Or the downtime.
That's
for
right.
some. At least that afternoon lull. But no, we're excited. We're here, and Shaun Flores is with me today. And
Yeah.
Shaun is our associate pastor, worship leader, everything else.
I'm the whatever else we need, guy.
Our production manager for our podcast. And normally you're kind of behind the camera, but today
Yes.
you've decided to help us and step into the camera.
Right.
And be kind of like the interviewer today.
Yes, yes.
So I'm going to kind of let myself go back and kind of turn it over to you. And
Well, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
I thought what we do today is we're going to kind of get to know Pastor Ken a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So we've got some fun questions today.
Cool.
It's not going to be very spiritual.
That's okay.
But
Well, we
probably
might get spiritual anyway. No
We
one
usually
else.
do.
Yeah.
We usually do.
Yeah.
But I thought what we do is ask some questions, kind of get to know you a little bit more. I know that there's a lot of people at our church and who have been coming to the church who know you from way back when.
Yeah, like a
They
history
probably
thing.
know everything,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people who don't know the rich history and kind of the experience that you and Pastor Laura have had. So I thought
thanks.
maybe we'd ask some questions just to kind of get to know you.
Sure.
And if we go long, maybe we can make it a two-part thing.
Yeah,
but
it's okay.
yeah, so I have some fun questions here.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
On the spot now, right?
All right, let's see here. Obviously, you're Pastor Ken.
Yes.
Where are you from?
Well, originally I was born in Long Island, New York. And of course, your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I was right around the corner from where she was.
Brentwood
And,
area?
Yeah, the Brentwood.
Yeah.
In fact, I was born in Bayshore Hospital, which is right there in Long Island. I lived in Brentwood. And I think she actually lived in Brentwood too, if I'm not mistaken. And I lost my New York accent because when I was 10, I was the last of 6 kids from my parents.
Wow.
I was the oops baby. and they reminded me that often that I was the not plant. My mother was actually at the verge of almost being a little bit too old to have children.
wow.
So it was really almost like a complicated thing, but here I am. I came anyway, and but by the time I was 10, they were ready to retire.
Wow.
So really, my parents were almost like. In fact, I have a nephew who's younger than I am.
Wow.
So really, they had me late.
Oh, wow.
And so by the time, like I said, I was 10, they retired. They moved to Florida, and they moved to Clearwater.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I was 10. I was kind of like the kid on the movie Cocoon. Spent all this time with,
With the
the
old
elderly. I went to shuffleboard courts.
Nice.
All their friends were like, my dad was Norwegian, so he had a bunch of Norwegian friends that had retired down
nice.
here and went to the church. So they would get together and have coffee. And here I am with a bunch of elderly people.
Yeah.
But it gave me an appreciation for
That's
elderly,
right.
even as I got a little older. So, but that's kind of how I arrived in Florida. Wow. And then of course, as we, of course, I've met my wife here, and we had our children here. I went to college in Lakeland, then moved to Daytona Beach for 20 years, and then 10 years ago came back to Clearwater again.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a full circle as far as the Florida thing goes. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're back here, starting over again.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, you even mentioned about knowing me. All of our Daytona friends, they knew me as a lead pastor because that's what I was the entire time we were there. Coming back here, I served with Pastor Jeff, and I was his associate. So I really served more in a role of a worship leader, associate pastor, executive pastor. So a lot of folks that are in this area may not recognize me necessarily as a lead pastor or didn't know me in that role. You know how that goes. I mean, sometimes
I hear a lot of Kennys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm really okay with that. I really am, because I like the I don't know, just the organic relationship that we've been able to establish with some folks. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're from Brentwood, but really you've been here most of your life.
Most of my life.
Most of your life.
I can probably say that I'm as native of a Floridian as most native Floridians are.
Yeah. You don't have much of a New York.
No. I mean, coming here at 10 years old, I mean, all of my growing up years and everything was Florida.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like you. You were born and raised in Florida, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Florida. I was born in Miami, but
that's true. So
I grew up
still Florida.
in Central Florida, so I don't really have much of a Miami background.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but I can relate.
But with a name like Flores, I mean, Miami
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So, yeah.
It's so funny. You know, my wife is not Hispanic.
Yeah.
I'm half Hispanic,
Right.
and so people meet her and they think that she's Cuban because she's so
Oh,
white.
yeah.
And then she has a Spanish
That's
last
right.
name. So-
That would make sense. Totally.
And she speaks more Spanish than I do.
Does she?
So-
Yeah.
yeah. I do not.
That's
I can
funny.
barely order off of the Taco
Yeah.
Bell menu. I do okay.
But you do it. You
I
get it
do it,
done.
yeah.
You get, that's all that matters. You
Yeah.
get it done. So,
Yes. So
great.
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look here. So I'm just gonna ask some fun questions,
Okay.
and then we'll throw in some serious ones. Okay,
Wow, you got a list.
I got a list
Wow.
here.
I'm getting nervous.
Okay, where did you learn how to do your main craft? So
Whoa.
in this case, you have several, but
Uh-huh.
in this case, let's say where and how did you get started in music?
Okay. I started singing as early as I can remember. It's weird. I remember being really young, like before 10, like it's still in Long Island days.
Yeah.
And I loved listening to, I had a good buddy that lived down the street, and I think his dad worked at a radio station or something, and he
nice.
had these little 45s, you know, I don't know if anybody remembers those. We call them singles now. Back then they were called 45s.
Yeah.
And they were actually small little mini LPs that
Yep.
went on, you know, anyway. And so I started a collection of them, and it was artists like Hank Williams, and then I really fell in love with Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Now I was in church, so I wasn't really allowed to listen to secular music.
Yeah.
But country, I guess, was
Yeah,
okay.
it's okay.
I don't know why. Like rock and roll, forget it.
Yeah.
But country was permissible. Even though I look back now and I'm thinking the songs were, you know, some of them were anyway. In fact, country music sometimes can be worse. But my parents agreed that Johnny Cash was okay.
Yeah.
He had a couple of songs they wouldn't, you know, they would look over the song list and
Yeah.
make sure everything was all right. But I started listening to him, and
Nice.
then you know, I wanted to pick up a guitar because he played a guitar. Had to be a black guitar. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
of
wanted,
course.
you know, he was Man in Black.
That's right.
And that was kind of my inspiration. And really, as far as singing, I did that earlier on. I did that in church. I was in the kids choir, you know, and they always gave me the solos, I guess, because I could carry a tune, you know.
Yep.
And but as far as the guitar thing, that really came out of the whole Johnny Cash deal. And I ended up collecting. I think back to this. I had like 37 of his big
Wow.
LP albums. I
Wow.
had every album he ever made because I ended up early being an OCD collector. You
Wow.
know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I didn't know it then,
That's
but
gotta
now
be
I know.
worth
I was
something.
like really an OCD collector. You know.
You still have them?
No, and I wish I did.
That
I
would
wish
be
I
worth
did.
so much.
Oh, I know. I did start in the '70s though. Then I went to the whole the new Jesus music. You
Yeah,
know, and
definitely.
when that started coming out, that was my new go-to. And I had the first album I got in 1972, and I still have that.
Was
It
that
was
the
a
Love Song?
Yeah. I have the
I was
Love
going to
Song
ask
album.
if it was Love Song.
Yeah, and that's why this new movie is coming out. I'm
I
so
know.
excited about because it really
know.
is kind of. I feel like it's my history, you know, as far as Christian music goes. So anyway, that's kind
Well,
of.
what's funny about that is I had no idea who Love Song was
Yeah.
until I watched the documentary Jesus Music.
Right.
But as the new movie's coming out, I've been going back and listening and just like, you know, really trying to like, what were these guys thinking? What were they
Yeah.
going through? And so I went back and was listening to like Welcome Back and
Yeah.
all of
It's
those
amazing.
songs. And
Yeah.
man, they were really talented.
And some of those harmonies and
yeah.
vocals, it was just, I mean, it's definitely that
Your 70s,
style of
sure.
70s, you know, music. But still, the talent was
Yes.
definitely there. It was powerful.
Well, I think one of the things that you and I, you know, both being musicians and both being musicians from a young age,
Right.
my very first inspiration was Michael W. Smith.
Oh, there you go.
And I know that that's one.
Oh,
I know
Smitty's one of my favorites.
later on
Yeah.
in life for you, like for me, it was the very first thing
Yeah.
that ever made me say, "Oh man, I want to be a
Yeah,
musician."
yeah.
Was listening to Michael W.
Yeah,
Smith.
yeah.
And the first tape I had a cassette tape I
cassette
ever
tape,
had
yes,
was
yes.
Michael W. Smith.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which one?
It was
the project, the first one?
No. It was like Change Your World.
Oh, change. So you, that was
Yeah,
like
it was in the
95.
90s. Yeah.
Well, that's because you're so much younger.
Yeah,
I
I was-
remember 83, I think, was when he first came out with the project.
Yes.
And I was all over.
Well, I went back
yeah.
and got all of his albums.
So you
I had
did,
the
yeah.
Project 1 and 2.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then all
The
of the
big
albums.
picture. The big picture was his kind of claim to fame.
And Eye to
kind
Eye.
of crossed over, with Eye
Yep.
to Eye, yeah.
And
Good
then
stuff.
Go West, Young Man.
Yeah.
That was one. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I had all of those albums too.
Yeah, Pastor Barry is listening. He loves Michael too.
Oh,
so yeah,
see,
he'll get into this.
See, we're all kindred spirits.
That's right. That's right. Good stuff.
Yes. So
and Michael's
awesome.
still doing it. You know, he's kind of entered into the whole praise and worship scene now, and man, he's still making some.
And they talk about that in the Jesus music, you know, and he was really influential into bringing bringing worship into the mainstream, Christian music.
Really is true.
CCM. So.
So good.
Well, that's fun. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question, but I think I did. Yeah.
No, that was good.
It was a craft. That's right.
I'm trying to find a real fun one. Okay. Are you a night owl or an early bird?
You know, I've changed.
Okay.
I used to be I was a youth pastor back in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
And then I could be up 2, 3 in the morning like the rest of them. You know,
nice.
I've shifted in my now. I could really easily be in bed by 10 o'clock
nice.
at night. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But and then I'm starting to find that my most energy is in the early mornings.
Yes.
You know, I have this workout routine that I do. I go to the gym, you know, and I feel like I'm really productive. And that wasn't the earlier me. So that's more of a later me.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like the senior me, I guess. So,
that's good. So,
which I guess is typical for people, at least guys, as they get a little older. I think they tend to be more early morning risers. Yeah. I don't know, but anyway, that's.
I think that's been true for me. I mean, most of my life I was a sleep-in kind of guy, but the last probably 5 years, it's like my body has gotten into a clock, where like at 6 a.m.
You don't even need the alarm.
Oh yeah, every day
it just happens. Yeah.
And whether I want to or not, like today, I was up at 4:30 today, wide awake and ready to go. Yeah. So that's why 9 o'clock rolls around. I can barely keep my eyes open.
Or in my case, 3:30.
yeah. Depends on where you eat lunch.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, what would you say? What's Laura in that?
She is definitely a night person now.
A night person.
Yeah. And we've kind of shifted. She used to be. Not that way. So it makes it a little bit of a challenge in our marriage.
Sure.
Because she now likes to stay up later.
I know.
And she likes to sleep a little later.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Like whenever we have a morning thing, I have to kind of give her ample warning and you know, try to be patient, you know, and kind. All those wonderful attributes of loving her, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it's definitely shifted. Whereas, you know, when I was younger, it would be nothing for me on a day off to sleep till noon.
Yeah.
You know, and now I couldn't even make myself do that unless I was like ill or so, you know, or something was wrong with me.
Yes.
But so it's just funny how things have shifted a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy, that's a fun one. What 5 people would you bring with you if you were stuck on a desert island?
Oh, my.
And you could be like, Father, Son, Holy
I was going to say, yeah, can I do that? Yeah, definitely want the Lord with me.
All right, but
non-spiritual.
Non-spiritual.
Okay. Wow. So what 5 people would I bring? Well, of course, I have to say my wife, right? You know.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm going to have to say my kids.
Yeah.
So that's 4 people right there.
That's 4 people right there.
And I have to say you.
Oh,
because you're
don't bring
interviewing
me into this, please.
I almost said Jeff, but well, I don't know. I don't know if I can.
You know,
I think I'd have Kathy before Jeff, maybe.
You know why I think Pastor Jeff would be great? Because if it were just the 5 on the island, sooner or later he would find someone else to talk to.
Absolutely.
And strike up and get you guys off the island.
Yeah. Or talk his way out of being on the island.
Yes.
So somehow he would get us off.
Yes, so that's a great choice. Yeah. Please don't bring me on the island with you. Oh, that's good.
That'd be a rough thing, though. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's fun. Let's see.
You know, on a serious note, I was just reading this morning that it's a book by Mario Murillo.
Oh yeah,
and it's it's a hard read because he really is saying that God's raising up and this is my serious part. Is that okay?
Yeah.
He's raising up a godsend, and he said there's 2 major errors in the church right now, and one's it's like a pendulum swing, but they're both do equal damage. One is the ones that are the doomsdayers.
Yes.
You know, because what they're doing then, they're investing all their time in survival rather than in revival, is how he puts it.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking of that when you talked about being on an island with 5 people, because you get to a place where you worry about so much about just surviving or that doom is coming, rather than believing in the power of the gospel that actually changes lives. So we get consumed really in kind of a selfish mentality. Then the other pendulum thing is this whole grace thing, everything's fine, you're going to be okay, you know, which we are going to be okay. but where there's no sense of urgency to reach people and to love on people. So I just thought that was, when you mentioned that question, it just kind of clicked back what I read this morning. And I just thought that's so intriguing, because I've met different ones. And it's not that it's a judgment against those folks, but it's just a different way of thinking. And I think part of repentance is changing the way we think.
Absolutely.
And so I think what I'm finding out, and even in this new venture, I've had to really adjust my way of thinking, and just because of the new season we're in, but also I believe in the new season we're in as in the bigger picture as a nation, where we are as a church, and if we really believe in the power of the gospel, then that should really determine how we live our lives and how we can have an effect and impact on the people that we minister to and serve to. Anyway, I didn't mean to get serious.
No, that's really good, because this is the whole point of this is to help us get to know you. And to talk about things that are important to you, and where things that are on your heart, things that God have laid on your heart. I mean, I think that's so right on, and I think that's so critical for this time, because and honestly, I mean, when there's a hard word like that, it's not so much, again, like you said, that it's about bringing judgment against somebody, but it gives us things that we need to think about and pray into, and check ourselves and say, Lord, what is my priority? Am I trying to get out of here? Am I so heavenly minded I'm no earthly good?
Or do we get the idea that God's way is always going to be the easy way? And oftentimes we get this misconception that, if I follow the Lord, everything's, I think there's a song on Joy FM that, every problem's going to be worked out, everything's going to go all right, and that proves my love for you, or your love for me, that everything is good. But it's kind of a misconception. Oftentimes we realize when we do what God wants us to do, in fact, I'm talking about that Sunday, when we obey, we think, I obey, so everything's going to work out great. But it's not always going to work out great. And so what do we do when we obey God and we're following after him and things don't go the way we planned? Are we still willing to continue pressing forward? And I'm kind of preaching to myself on that, but are we still willing to say yes? I still give my yes, and I still have a passionate yes, even though things may not work out the way I thought they would have.
That's so interesting. I was telling you about this a week or two ago. At Bethel, Chris Valentin spoke, and he was talking about faith and the testing of our faith. And he said, that when God, so God will give us a word, this will happen, and then immediately the opposite happens. Well, does that mean that we missed it? Does that mean that we missed it? He said, no, it doesn't mean we missed it. It means that now our faith is being tried. So things, we want things always to go, obviously, a certain way. We would like for things to go. But when they don't, it's not necessarily that we're being punished or that, but it's that our faith is being tested, and that maybe God wants to do something in us. Maybe there's something he wants to build in me. It could be patience. It could be, just building my faith. It could be
just building more of a strength and an endurance. Think about the pain that we go to the gym. No pain, no gain. That's the slogan, right? Well, obviously the pain is what's causing the gain. And Torrin Wells has a song, Joy in the Morning, and he says, faith isn't faith till it all falls apart and you still choose to follow.
That's right, man.
And that's like, oh man, that's the pain, but that's a pain that produces the gain. Because when God's in it, it's always a gain. We don't preach a gospel that he's out to hurt us or he's out to harm us. He's never. His goodness will always come. But oftentimes the hardships and the challenges we endure are only proving grounds in us to cause us to be more that person that he's making in us. So,
definitely.
It's powerful.
And I think I like Bill Johnson's quote. He quotes all the time that God doesn't cause bad things to happen to us, but he will use them. He will use them for sure. He's like, you better believe that he'll use it, for your good. And so, man, that's...
and I look back, we talk about my life or whatever, and I can think back to testimony after testimony of where it honestly, it's been challenging. I think whenever I've given, and I was thinking about this the other day because I thought, it's been a difficult transition this last season we're in. And I'm not, I don't try to hide that. It hasn't been an easy road. we love what we're doing, and we love the church, we love Living Stones, we love everything that God is doing. But as I look back, it's like everything that we've tried to say yes to God to has always been met with heavy challenges.
With opposition, yeah.
And opposition. But yet every time when I look at because now I'm old enough to have a history, and I look back, but every time God worked it for our good.
Yes.
And yeah, it was. I don't know that I'd even choose to go back and do it over again, because some of those things were tough, but yet I thought I am tougher as a result of going through the toughness of that.
Yes.
And God has caused me to be stronger. And so I still have a long way to go, like everybody, but I can see the progression and how God brought us through.
Yes.
So it's not always easy. It's not always fun, but it's always a wonderful adventure when God's in it.
Yes, absolutely.
And He brings out His good.
Yes, He does. Yes, He does. Man, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. See, we got spiritual.
Yeah, we do. We got kind of deep there for a second.
That's good. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. All right, let's do one more.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll continue next week, or maybe we can bring Laura on.
Well, that'd be good too.
And
get her in some of these questions. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
We can switch roles. I could do this to you too. So.
Let's see here. All right. These are all like closing questions here.
Oh, it's okay.
Actually, there's one from the intro that I thought would be a good one.
Yeah. It's a whole bunch of questions.
There it is. What books have changed your life the most?
Oh, okay. Of course, obviously, on the spiritual side, the Word of God.
Yes. The Bible.
Which constantly is changing us. But if we get it on the practical, I am an avid reader, and I love to read. And I didn't used to. It's interesting. When I was young, in fact, even when I decided I felt God leading me to go to Southeastern, my biggest fear was, I hate reading. I just don't like reading. Yeah. And it really was a challenge for me to even, because I thought, because in my mind, college was all about reading books, but as I started, of course, I went through the whole Bible college, and I read the books, and it was a little bit of a challenge. It was more of a drudgery. Yeah. Something happened though when I came out and we started in ministry. I started having this real hunger and desire for books, and I remember so vividly. I read, I think it was John Bevere's one of his earlier books on breaking intimidation.
Oh yeah,
I think it was back in the 90s, and man, that book was like, and it came at a time when I was in that place. I was being intimidated. I was a new pastor. I left youth ministry and started my first role in the senior or lead pastor role, and I had strong men, older men that were some of them wealthy men, and when I say that, because that just indicates strength and intimidation, and they were my board, and I remember just feeling the weight of fear of these men. And I thought, man, this is not right. I've got to lead these men, not be fearful of them. And I remember reading John Bevere's book, and he had a quote that totally changed my life at that point. Yeah. He said, if you allow intimidation to overtake you, if you allow fear, that they will take the authority that you have, take it from you, and then they'll use it against you. Wow. And that's exactly what the testimony of my life was at that point. They were stripping me, if you will, of my authority, and then using that against me. And it was a really tough time. But again, that book really helped me navigate through what God was doing in me. And all that God really wanted to do was build a leader out of me. He said, you've been a youth pastor, you've been dealing with teenagers and young adults, and you've had a great time, but now it's time to know what it is to lead people that need to be led. Whether they want to or not, they need to be led.
Absolutely.
And so that book was definitely a game changer as far as how I was as a person, as a leader, as a minister. And the Lord just used John. So then one thing about when I find an author that I love, I get every book they write.
Yeah, right.
So to this day, in fact, I'm waiting for John Bevere's new book, The Awe of God or something. I think that's the title. And I've just read everything he's ever written. So I've done a lot of his curriculum, a lot of his Bible studies. I just love his teaching. But then I remember my son we were going through a really difficult transition in ministry later on. In fact, it was 2008, 2009, and we had a church merge that basically went bad, and I found myself leaving that merger. We had a church before then up to about 400 some people, and then I had like maybe 20 that were left in my living room out of the remnant of that merge.
Wow.
And I thought, man, I just felt so defeated, you know. And it was a weird time economically. You know, we were going through a real recession in the country,
Sure.
and so you know, people that those few 25, a lot of them were getting unemployment checks. They weren't working. They had lost their jobs. You know, it was just a rough time. And my son gave me a book by this guy named Bill Johnson. Well, I'd never heard of Bill Johnson before, but the book was called Face to Face with God.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't his first book. His first book, I think, was When Heaven Invades Earth.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of Bill Johnson. But this book, Face to Face, was all about, really, to me, it was all about going after a God encounter rather than going after a ministry.
Yeah.
Going after a God encounter rather than going about making everything right. In other words, that our God encounter, having that presence-led life is what so that was definitely, it was a life changer for me.
Oh, yeah.
And since then, again, I got every book you read.
Yeah,
every book you wrote, and to this day, everything Bill Johnson writes. And then of course it introduced us to the whole Bethel stream.
Yes.
And you know, we were able to start the School of Supernatural Ministry, and really it forever changed our ministry life from 2009 to this day. So I would say those two authors, those two books, John Bevere, Breaking Intimidation, and Bill Johnson, Face to Face, were real key books.
Oh,
I know
man.
it took a long time to answer that one. So.
No, man, that's great. That's great. This is what we're. This is what we want to know, man. I love Bill Johnson, obviously, and When Heaven Invades Earth, man, I had to read that like one bite at a time. I mean, because it was so good,
oh,
so
good. And you can take nuggets out of that book and just go on and on. You know, I certainly don't want to compare it to the Bible. It's like you read the Bible, you know, you read it over and over again, and God speaks to you at different seasons.
Yes.
Well, Bill Johnson has that gifting, you know, where the way he writes in different seasons of your life, and you read his books over again, and you find that it ministers to you in a whole different way. So it's powerful.
That one, and for me, Culture of Honor.
Yeah, Danny Silk.
That one I couldn't read through it. I had to. The reason why is every like chapter I would read, I would have to stop, and I would just kind of analyze my whole time in ministry through that lens, and it gave so much understanding and so much, you know, places where I blew it, places where I did really well, but just helping me understand like the culture of honor, and
what
so
it means, and how it can not only affect you but everybody around you, and even generationally. You know, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It really is.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Well, we want to.
This has been good. This has been fun.
It's been really good. I want to do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, let's do it.
But to wrap up this one, what can we expect next from Living Stones?
Well, we're in a really good place. In fact, you and I talked about it today. You know, I really feel like we're in still in a launch stage.
Yeah.
You know, we're still assembling those that are kind of rallying around with us, and you know, we seem to be strengthening our base at this point. You know, we have goals and we have desires to do, you know, outreaches and things that really affect, you know, to have an impact on the city of Oldsmar and the surrounding area. But I really feel this is a season right now where God's just kind of formulating, you know, who He has with us. And I know you and you even articulated that, I think, a little better than I did, but how He's just kind of bringing sort of a launch team together and really assembling.
We've been blessed with just people
I mean,
who are supportive.
People.
I mean, really supportive. And and
former ministers even that are finding their place among us, you know. I mean, it's just incredible.
And I think with that team now, we're able to now go into Oldsmar and just reach the people, you know. It's true. You know, because that's the place that God has laid on your heart and laid on our heart. And it's the mission field that He sent us to. And so we've been really blessed with people outside of Oldsmar who have come and just faithfully for the last, you know, almost 2 months. And so we're just excited about that.
It's so interesting because reading this book by Mario Murillo, you talk about books that change your life. This one's really having an impact on me like right now. But, you know, it's not that we're trying to have, what is the name of the new type of church that's kind of popular? I know we've heard it, kind of, anyways, where it's not just about impressing people with what we can do. It really is causing the presence of God to be made known.
Absolutely.
And so we really want to be, I love Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life, but really we have a purpose, and that is to win the world.
Yes.
That's the purpose.
Right.
So a purpose needs to align with his purpose.
Right.
It's the assignment that we need to grab a hold of, that God's given to us. So I really feel like our assignment right now is to build a base, to build a team, to make it strong, and to get our DNA installed into those that are with us, and then watch what God does as we then launch out and reach people in that city. And I just know that part of me, it tends to be a little bit in a hurry. I want to get to it.
know, right?
And even this morning, I had to read a whole chapter of what it means to wait.
Yeah.
Jesus said, "Wait for the promise."
Yeah.
Wait, tarry. Don't be in a hurry. Wait for the timing to be right.
Yes.
And I tend to want to get going. I want to get on that treadmill and get things rolling. But the Lord, I really feel like He's just kind of, and He's using you to speak into my life too, even in our conversations. But just not to be overly consumed with being in a hurry.
Yeah.
It just is about following, the leading of the Lord and allowing His presence to really be the thing that we go after the most.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I kind of feel like, and I said this to you earlier, that we shouldn't feel this overwhelming sense to recreate something,
right.
Because especially I've been in ministry now almost 20 years.
For
40.
Close.
and this is not your first church plant, but it's easy to kind of go back and really kind of do what we've done before. Yeah. But I think we're in a great place with a great group of people where we can, try something different.
Yeah, be a little bit
and
experimental. Yeah,
and see, really what's going to be effective in the culture that we're in, and especially the newer generation, the younger generation. That doesn't mean the message changed.
No.
We're all about His presence.
Oh, yeah.
We're all about the
revival.
Word. All about
right.
that.
That's right.
But it might how it looks and how it feels and that stuff we can kind of experiment with it in the early stages of it. And so
it's true. I think people are just hungry. I mean, it's obvious with this outpouring that's happening, in the college and what we're seeing. People are just hungry for the reality of His presence.
Yes.
And
right.
You don't see any spectacular worship teams or great speakers in that Asbury College. Am I saying that right? Is that the right name?
Yeah, Asbury.
But you are seeing just an organic hunger, people that are just hungry for a move of God, people that are just sincere in their expression. And boy, if anything would exemplify, I think, what we want to see in Osmar or in Pinellas County, it'd be that. Just a fresh move of God.
And hunger,
attractional church is what I was trying. That term, and that term has become maybe used in a negative context. Obviously, we want to attract the presence of God. When we attract the presence of God, the people will come because that's what they want.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with doing things with excellence.
Absolutely not.
When you do things with excellence, that is attractive.
That's right.
But we don't sacrifice. We don't sacrifice the things that are important.
That's right.
Just to be attractional.
Right.
We would rather, Lord, we want your presence above all.
Right.
But if we can do that in a way that's excellent and attractional,
that looks good.
That's
There's nothing
fine.
wrong with that. That's right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I think that the churches that are really the most successful have mastered that.
They have.
They haven't sacrificed the presence of God.
Right.
There are churches. Like Bethel's a great example.
Sure.
They don't sacrifice the presence.
But boy, you talk about excellence. And they do it.
And the execution.
Right.
And you have to when you get that size.
That's right.
And that many people.
You don't have a
and
choice
that many
at that
services.
You got to have something some kind of systems in place.
Right.
So no, that's good.
But we're in an exciting place.
Yeah, we are. We are.
So
and I'm really looking forward to the days that are ahead. And if by chance you're watching this, you're looking for a church, you're looking for a community of believers that are just really out exploring what God would have for us.
Yes.
Then I think Living Stones may be something you may want to check out. And we'd love to have you.
And you know what? We're not a church of young people or old people. We're a church of every age,
Yeah.
every ethnicity that
Yeah,
you can
it's
think
true.
of. We're just people who love the Lord
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
love His presence
Yeah.
and love the fellowship.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right. Yeah. And we would love to have you. So,
Right.
so come check us out. We're meeting still at the Oldsmar Public Library.
Yeah.
It's in the Tico Room, which is right there in the library building. It's right on St. Petersburg Drive there in Oldsmar.
In Oldsmar,
the
yeah.
main part of the city there. And we're just excited about what God's doing.
Yep.
So
11
we invite you to
a.m.
come. 11 a.m. That's right.
Sunday mornings.
Sunday morning. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thanks, Shaun.
Yeah,
Thanks
that's great.
for being such a good interviewer.
All right. And watch out for part
Yeah,
2.
it's coming.
And we'll see you guys later.
Sounds great. Take it easy.